Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com. This is part of the 440 network. I'm excited to talk to you about the Titans. I'm brought to you by Jaspers. We're going to talk about Nick Folk's issues as the new kicker, Chicago additions to the Titans who could make a difference to the defense, and the 5 undrafted rookies who are part of the lineup, among other things. Let's dive right in. Nick's our kicker, Mike Vrabel said on Thursday. It's a declaration, really, defending the veteran that the Titans traded for from New England, a 2005 7th-round pick. I have no objection to that. And I think Nick Folk is going to be an accurate kicker for the Titans, certainly a money kicker from 40 in. He's not going to let them down from that range. And he's pretty good overall, though he's not a giant, obviously, from over 50 yards because he's an older guy. But the Titans also brought in Cade York as a practice squatter from Cleveland, who's had some struggles, but also has a big, strong leg. So in 4 seasons with New England, Nick Folk had a 12.2 touchback rate with an average kickoff of 59 yards. I'll do the math for you. That's 6 yards short of the end zone. And that's not good enough for an NFL team. But asked about kickoffs, Mike Vrabel said, quote, "I don't know if that's been something that's an issue. I think that whatever they were asking him to do, I think we feel comfortable, whether we're going to kick a touchback or whether we're going to cover kicks and wherever we do it at." That's the end of his quote. I don't know if that's been something that's been an issue. It's been an issue, Mike. It's been an issue. And it's not hard to figure out that it's been an issue. Do we really think the Patriots were asking Nick Folk to kick short when they gave up 3 kickoff return touchdowns last season? The most in the league. There were only 3 other kickoff returns for a touchdown in the entire league. And do we really think they were asking him to kick short when they had the worst opposing drive start position in the NFL by 1.2 yards at the 27.9 yard line? So opposing teams were at the 28 yard line against the Titans. Against the Patriots, excuse me. 3 touchbacks on 33 kickoffs last year. That's terrible. We covered that, and we covered 11 missed extra points in the last 3 seasons in a short conversation that we had with Folk on Thursday. It started with the kickoffs. Things are taking a second here, but here it will come. My internet from Comcast has been an issue. Don't make me call you again.
There's a lot of factors that kind of go into all that stuff, so I'm just excited about the new year here, and we'll kind of go from there.
What went into the training for it, Nick?
What was that?
What you said you trained for it?
I just trained differently than I had in the past, because I hadn't had to kick off in the past. I mean, we had a punter who kicked off, so I didn't have to do it. So I worked out of this offseason, and we'll go from there.
You hit 2 last year off the crossbar from inside of 50. What is realistically your range?
That's a loaded question. Depends. In both those days, one of them I had a big gust in my face, so whatever you want to say about it. Another one was a really cold day in New England, it depends on the day.
Nick, speaking of cold, are you excited to come to a place where climate is a little bit different?
Yeah, it'll be nice to end up in the in a little bit warmer place, but I enjoy playing in the cold, so it was a good time up there. But I'm excited to be here.
They just put in turf for you too.
Yeah, I kicked on it the other day, and it was nice. I enjoyed it, so we'll get out there a couple more times and see how it goes, but I enjoyed it so far.
How important or rejuvenating was that competition this summer for you?
I enjoy the competition. I've kind of always said, like, if you can't enjoy the competition, embrace it, then NFL is not going to be too long for you. So I've enjoyed it. I enjoy competing. a lot of times you're competing against yourself, and then, but having someone there is fun as well.
You've been excellent at short field goals for a long time, but extra points have been maybe a little bit of a different story at times. How do you kind of explain the difference?
Again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. You kind of most of those extra points I would probably say were sudden change versus like a kick return, punt return, whatever. So worked a lot on that this offseason. We kind of put that at the forefront. So that's just that's what they wanted with the new rule. So I think most guys are kind of in that new rule range, and that's what they wanted when they made the rule in 2015.
He's got to be able to handle sudden change, extra points, right? And it's certainly weird that he's so good from 40 and in, hasn't missed in 4 years, I believe, but misses extra points from 33 yards. So that's got to square. I have friends in New England who think he will kick off better in warmer weather, and he's certainly making a gain there. He said at the beginning he's been training to kick off, which wasn't in his training regimen recently because the punter had been kicking off until he was called into more duty. We will see. The Titans are not a great special teams team, but they have covered kickoffs well. They were third in average drive start against, 3.6 yards better than the Patriots. Rand Carthon, who spoke on Thursday, said kickoffs is a part of his job, and if they're not touchbacks, then we've got 10 people out there to cover them, and we expect them to do that. So I think it's kind of a combined effort thing here. They expect him to be better at touchbacks than he's been. They expect to continue to cover kicks well if he's not getting touchbacks. And we also don't know how the new rule factors in here, where teams can simply fair catch a kickoff and get the ball at the 25. And so, if you're not getting past the 25, you're certainly gonna take advantage of that rule. If it's an issue for folk, though, they have some roster flexibility now with Cade York. York's right there. All right. Now, he had touchbacks on 50 of 81 kickoffs playing his home games in Cleveland, where, maybe the second worst wind stadium in the country to Buffalo. Averaged 3 yards more on his kickoffs than folk in worse weather, as a guy who's 17 years younger. That's not a typo, 17 years younger. Unfortunately for York, unfortunately for the Titans, he missed 5 of his last 13 field goal attempts in his last 8 games last season. So he's got some issues. He was asked today, or Rand Carthon was asked today about, coaching him from the head up, and talked about the mental coaching that's available to him. So again, the Titans have a kicking solution now. Unfortunately, their kicking solution is in 2 guys, one who's on the 53, one who's on the practice squad. And they very staunchly said it's Nick Folk's job. So if you're a Titans fan, you cross your fingers that he keeps kicking the way he's kicked in terms of accuracy, that they get good days for him to kick better from distance, and that the combination of warmer weather, his off-season training, and whatever other factors allow him to kick off better, and the Titans continue to cover kickoffs well. And you need all of those things to happen. Look, I think they should have addressed it earlier. I'm not saying Brendan McManus is a be-all, end-all solution, and that he's definitely a better kicker, but they seem to be reluctant to pay him $2 million in May when he became a cap casualty from Denver. And now they're paying Folk $2.8 million. Who would you rather have, McManus or Fote, for $800,000 less? I'd probably lean McManus there. We'll see how he does at division rival Jacksonville, right? 2 Chicago guys come in as the Titans' 2 veteran additions after they go through the first phase of revisions to the 53-man roster. Cornerback Kindle Vilmor. We were joking. He sounds kind of like a Star Wars name. Spoke to him. Seems like a nice guy. Vrabel says he's a competitive coverage player, a veteran that's played snaps, kind of looking at where we were with Anthony Kendall and his contributions in special teams and allowing him to make it onto the roster. I just felt like we needed to add a veteran guy. Kendall showed well in his preseason exposure and is a veteran that's played in this league. Again, a note here, Vrabel says, I just felt like we needed to add a veteran guy. No mention of Rand Carthon there. No, as was the way he talked about he and John Robinson. Something to take note of there. Vilmor, an inside and outside capable cornerback. He's 5'11", 189. That gives him 1 inch and 12 pounds on Anthony Kendall, one of the 5 undrafted rookies on this team, in addition to 44 games and 22 starts. It'll be interesting to see. Kendall has probably made the team over Eric Garror because he's got more of a special teams build to him, but it's not a big build, obviously. So can Kendall be active on opening day as the 6th corner? Somebody's got to sit. So it'll be interesting to see. Trevis Gipson, to me, looks like a great addition. The Titans saw him in the first preseason game. He was productive against them. 10 sacks, 72 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 21 quarterback hurries. I set that up very poorly. These are not numbers against the Titans in that preseason game. These are his career numbers. 5 passes defensed, 5 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery in 40 games, including 19 starts. Carthon said one of Gipson's 2 sacks in the preseason openers kind of pissed me off. I won't go into it, but it pissed me off. So we may need to look back on that. Titans on the edge, after Landry and Key seem like a drop off to Weaver. Gipson seems like an Autry type, and they count Autry more as outside linebacker. So now, if you're looking at 4, you've got another guy who could play end/linebacker, perhaps. He didn't fit in Chicago's 4-3. He fits much better in a 3-4. I don't understand how Chicago couldn't have gotten something for him. Mike Herndon, who you know from my site in his weekly Wednesday column, tweeted, and I thought this was terrific. A funny thing about Trevis Gipson going from Chicago to Tennessee is that the Bears just gave former Titans edge defender DeMarcus Walker a 3-year, $21 million contract in free agency. And then he compared their stats. Walker, over the past 2 years, Walker 9 sacks, 62 pressures. Gipson 10 sacks, 57 pressures. Gipson's 2 years younger and will make a fraction of the $7 million annual that Walker commanded. I think the Titans come out ahead there, or at least even, and certainly fiscally they come out ahead. So really good note from Herndon there. I think there's a lesson to be taken here in both of these additions. And Carthon said, it's purely a coincidence that both additions come from Chicago. But it's not a coincidence that Chicago is shedding guys from a previous regime, right? And you're going into the 2nd year of Eberflus as the head coach. Poles may have been there a little bit longer. I think 2nd year of him as well. And they're, as a lot of teams do under a new regime, simply shedding guys that don't fit their scheme as much. And while they may be good players, they aren't their players and they aren't their good players. And so this is the time of year where you comb through teams going through a regime change who are going to be dropping some guys that might be pretty good, that they might be dropping without sufficiently looking for a trade. Or look, people didn't jump on at Gipson, I think, passes through waivers and didn't get claimed. They both and they claimed the cornerback. So I think just looks to me like a really advantageous position for the Titans to find two guys who fit what they're asking of an edge rusher and of a corner, who are clearly NFL caliber veterans, and who Chicago is discarding. It's good fortune, but there's a lesson there in what you can gain out of a regime shift elsewhere, and more power to the Titans for doing that. The defense is strong already, and it gets stronger with these two moves. I'm brought to you by Jasper's, your neighborhood bar and restaurant done better. It's on West End Avenue, between downtown and midtown. It's a great place to go have lunch or dinner. Can't recommend it highly enough. Great portions, great service, great drinks, great price to park, the price being $0. Great price to play some games while you're waiting for your food or before you get a table. You play some Pop-A-Shot, you play some skee ball, some air hockey, a lot of fun, $0. Cocktail menu, beers on tap, everything you could want. Go there for a business lunch, take a date or your spouse for dinner, take the family for dinner. It works always. Very versatile, very flexible, just like the kind of players the Titans are looking for their roster. I can't recommend it highly enough. Check out Jasper's on West End, between downtown and midtown. Did I mention you can park there for free? Youth. Look, you want the Titans to be young, right? Young and fast. Younger and faster, always kind of themes for teams, especially when you were a little old and a little slow. Titans have 11 rookies on the roster. That's 20% of the roster. Their full draft class of 6, 5 undrafted rookies, which is a lot. Another 5 of the 17-man practice squad were also undrafted rookies. That's a lot of inexperience, and that's a lot of development work, which is great. Develop these guys and get them in a position where they can help you. The odds of it being substantial help this year are low. And if you need substantial help from them this year, guess what it means? It means you're hurt again. So, they're making up for some drafts with some missing pieces, some drafts where the back ends, particularly with the kind of guys who should be your back end corner. Look at the safeties at the back end of this roster. There's 0 experience playing safety. I mean, you could feel all right about Elijah Molden because he's played some. But after that, you've got guys who haven't played at all. Really, the depth concern we've emphasized and talked about, but it is not going away. Wanted to give you a dash of each of the 5 undrafted guys who made the roster, and also a little bit about how it works. Because on cut day, I think too many people think like you get a call or you get a meeting, to tell you if you've made it or if you've not made it. And you generally don't. You generally get called in if you've not made it, for a meeting to say, hey, we really appreciate what you've done for us. If they like you for the practice squad, they'll tell you that, and that's it. But generally, if you have made it, you don't hear from the team. And that makes for a stressful, long day as well, where you're probably texting with your buddies, hey, I haven't gotten a call. Have you gotten a call? Are you going in? Yada, yada. Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel actually did call a few guys in to deliver good news, which is not that common. That's how we got a report early in the day that Anthony Kendall had made the team. But that Otis Reese made the team, and he didn't know about it until the cut list came out. Colton Dow, the 7th round draft pick, made the team, and he didn't know about it until tweets came out about who didn't make the team. So let's hear from some of these guys. I want to give you a little snippet from each of these guys and talk just a little bit about each one of them. Let's start here with Otis Reese.
We made a 53-man roster.
Yeah.
It was a blessing. You know what I'm saying? It's still more work to be done. You know what I'm saying? We just try to come in and get better every day. You know what I'm saying? Just grateful for the opportunity.
Did they call you in to tell you made it, or did you just find out by not hearing?
I found out by not hearing.
What was that day like?
It was kind of like weird a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You find out you made the team by like not hearing anybody call you. So you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm just blessed and grateful for the opportunity. And I'm gonna take full advantage of my opportunity.
I knew the Titans liked Otis Reese, but I was asking some of my colleagues after he made the team, like, did you see him in games show up? Because I didn't really see that. And the ones I asked also didn't see him in games. So he really made this team off of what he did in practice and off of the coaches in the front office liking his traits. And so more power to him as likely the last linebacker who beats out Chance Campbell. But I think his footing is probably tenuous. All of these guys' footing is tenuous. More power to him. And there's an underdog to root for. Here is Matthew Jackson, who played gunner on the punt coverage team pretty consistently throughout the preseason. So you had to think he had a chance based on how they stuck with him. They're not going to waste gunner snaps on a very regular basis.
I've ever been called into office for that, so yeah, it was kind of a little nervous tension in the room, but he relieved my tension by telling me I made it, so I felt pretty good.
What did they tell you in telling you that you made it?
What's that?
What did they tell you in telling you that you made the team? What was their kind of challenge to you?
You said what was my challenge?
What was their challenge to you when they told you that you had made the initial 53?
Just to keep my intention, keep my what they brought me here for, just my physicality, my speed on special teams and stuff like that. Keep bringing energy that I always bring to the team. So they just strive for me to just keep going and continue to learn from the veterans and stuff like that and build a role on the team.
And what's the
Matthew Jackson, who went to Hillsborough High here in Nashville, still had a little trouble understanding Jim Wyatt's Southern there. Great local story, going to be popular in town. It'll be interesting to see if he is a opening day gunner based on, as I talked about, the gunning that he did in the preseason. But we'll see. It's still a long ride from getting those reps in the preseason to getting on the game day 48 to do that work. Here's Caleb Murphy, a fan favorite for the 4 sacks that he had in the preseason, a raw player who really needs to find a special teams role because he didn't have one in the preseason.
I can say that we're hungry, being undrafted.
So I got a call around like 2 o'clock. They brought me in, told me I made the team, just told me to continue to keep working hard. So yeah.
Would that phone call, did it have a tone to it that you knew it was good news, or do you come in not knowing?
No, it's kind of just settled. You know, they just called, said, "Hey, can you come up to the facility?" Came up there, and then we could conversated when I got here. And that was it.
What was that drive in like?
I mean, everybody's always nervous, especially like undrafted rookie. But I knew that God had me in His favor. So whatever He had decided, I would be fine.
What are you going to try to do now? Special teams? Do they talk to you about what kind of role they want to find for you?
Oh yeah, just continue to find a role. Continue to get better on all aspects of it. I would love to be on all special teams this year. Continue to help contribute to the team, those type of things. So just continue to work on it and find a role that way.
He can do a difficult thing against low-level players. He can get to the quarterback. Now he needs to show that he can do that if he has chances against the better caliber blockers. But to get on the field, he's going to have to find a niche on special teams. Are they giving him that niche right now? Are they trying to develop it? What's the pace of that? Those are the big questions for Caleb Murphy right now. Last but not least, Anthony Kendall, who made an appearance on this podcast probably 3 weeks ago. I saw him making plays early in training camp. He's a guy that caught my eye. I'm surprised he made the team, but I do think he's got some playmaking knack to him for sure.
I got called into the office. Coach Vrabel and Mr. Van, they called me in the office, and I went and talked to them, and they told me the news.
What'd that feel like?
It felt amazing. It felt like a dream come true. It felt like, all my hard work had finally kind of like paid off a little bit, but I know that now, like a lot of work is ahead, and I got to continue to work hard and take it day by day.
How much is it about special teams?
It's a lot, man. I knew coming in that was a role that I could try to, fit into and help, the team in that aspect, but yeah.
So what's the over-under out of these 5 guys? 2.5 active on game day? I think maybe I'd go under, maybe 2. Got to look more carefully at the roster. Got to see what moves they make between now and then. Congrats to all of them. Great stories, great underdog stuff. But all of them obviously need to expand their repertoire, get more experience, gain more confidence from the coaches. And they could be up as special teamers. None of them are going to be in the regular rotation at their positions unless somebody's hurt. And so we see where it goes from there. My cable went out on Wednesday afternoon in the hour leading up to the practice squad release. I had a couple little bits of news that I was trying to tweet out. And then my phone was useless. So my computer's useless. Comcast, bad on you. Then my phone is useless. Verizon, again, bad on you. And so I like to threaten to leave Verizon when I call and have showdowns with them over the poor service I get in my home, in a pretty big neighborhood, in a pretty big suburb of a pretty big city, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm in Brentwood, Tennessee. But one of my alternatives is T-Mobile. T-Mobile is using spokesmen from a TV sitcom that wasn't that good, that ended 13 years ago, Scrubs. Can anybody tell me why you would be using? Now, Travolta they mix in. I'm not impressed that Travolta needs to do T-Mobile sponsorships, but Scrubs was mildly entertaining for a time, but why are your spokespeople from a TV show that ended 13 years ago? Is that supposed to really hook me and pull me in? That makes me think damn, I'm really stuck with Verizon. Also, because I know people in my neighborhood don't do well with Sprint or T-Mobile either. But if you're trying to lure me away from Verizon, the guys from Scrubs are not very good bait. We'll wrap up with some notes here. I've got 3 other topics that I wanted to hit. Monty Rice. This is just a weird scenario. Well, virtually all of us that picked a 53-man roster missed here. We all had Monty Rice out. He said that his missed time was not because of injury, but because of life and God. But Thursday, Mike Vrabel said, when Monty was healthy, Monty returned to practice. That was a quote. He also used the word cleared. So I'm not sure we'll ever get to the bottom of this one, but Rice was a roster surprise based on how badly he was outplayed when he was on the field. By Jack Gibbons, who is not nearly as athletic as Monty Rice, but plays far more sophisticated game in terms of knowing who's doing what around him and where he needs to be and the angles he needs to take and all of those kinds of things. But part of it, I guess, too, is on Chance Campbell, who didn't make the roster and wound up on the practice squad. We presumed he was doing better than he was. And then Otis Reese makes the roster. But Monty Rice going to have to do some things and show up to be a presence on this team. Maybe he's safe for the year, but he's certainly not following in the Avery Williamson, Jayon Brown, David Long line of succession, which is what I'm sure they expected him to be when they spent a third-round draft pick on him a couple years ago, another John Robinson move that did not pan out great. Backup tackle. Justin Murray was the odd man out to make room for Trevis Gipson. So that leaves Jalen Duncan, the raw 6th-round draft pick, as the only pure tackle backup. Who's next? Dillon Radunz. Now, you have to say stock is up on Dillon Radunz right now, despite the fact that this team really did not like Dillon Radunz last year, to the point that he couldn't get ahead of Dennis Daly. And when he finally got a chance and he tore up his ACL late in the season, which is what he's coming back from now on a very encouraging timetable. He's got a new position coach in Haas, a new coordinator in Tim Kelly, but they're counting on an ACL recovery there. And there could be a rolled up ankle for somebody away from calling on a guy whose first teamwork, working team periods was Wednesday. And who last year was cast strictly as a guard until they were super desperate at tackle. So it's very interesting if Dillon Radunz is first in line as a backup tackle right now, which if I'm looking at the depth chart, I'd certainly go to him before, in the first half of the season, I'd go to him before Jalen Duncan, unless Murray is going to find his way back. So very interesting about Dillon Radunz. 2 misses. Titans put in waiver claims on 2 guys that they did not get. Dolphins wide receiver Elijah Higgins. The Dolphins were trying to convert the Stanford 6th rounder into a tight end. 6'3", 234 on Stanford's website. You know that the Titans love that size. Titans were one of 5 teams who claimed him. The Cardinals were number 3 in the waiver order. They got him. Let me tell you something, Dolphins. If 5 teams are putting in waiver claims on your guy, you should have had a little better finger on the pulse and had a sense that he was a tradable commodity. You could have got a conditional 6th. For a guy that was wanted by 5 different teams. Titans also wanted guard Nick Broker, who also had multiple claims. He was a 7th-round pick by the Bills. He went to the Texans ahead of the Titans. So that's 2 offensive linemen that the Texans got during training camp over the Titans. They outbid Tennessee for George Fant, and the Titans ended up settling for Chris Hubbard to substitute for Nicholas Petit-Frere during his 6-game gambling suspension. And now they lost out on Nick Broker in the waiver claims because the Texans were 2nd or 3rd, and the Titans 11th. Texans 3rd, I think. So it's always interesting to see who teams put in a claim for and don't get. Always appreciate when that comes to light, courtesy of the national reporters on the National Football League. My thanks to Jaspers for sponsoring me. My thanks for you for watching and listening. Please subscribe and like where you can. Please get a subscription to paulkuharsky.com. And most of all, don't block the box and be very sure to lock your locks.